Welcome back to the How to Be a Modern Content Creator video series. This episode is about content formats, and the first point I want to make is that you have to get to your first 100 posts. Let me say that again. You have to get to your first 100 posts, your first 100 reps. Now, regardless of what format you choose. And so I know Roberto Blake has talked about this a lot, and a lot of other creators have brought it up, but I wanted to take it a step farther because a lot of people, when they hear that, they think 100 posts total, and that kind of mixes with short form and long form. And then when it comes to audio, written, and video, they think that 100 posts just counts for all of it. No. Each one of these different content formats and content types have their own counter, if you will. You have a little clicker, and every time you make a video, every time you make a short form video or long form video, those clicks count towards that path. And so if you decide to switch after making 33 posts in audio, but you realize you'd rather be on camera, that's okay. Do you. But just know that your 100 reps are starting over once you start with that new format or type. And so content and more content is the key thing here. So trust me, if you think you're doing enough, you're wrong. But here is how to do it sustainably so that way you don't burn out. Whenever you're starting to create content, it can be kind of hard. It gets a lot of creative juices kind of burned out in a way. So you'll start working really hard to make this video, but then you wanted to make a podcast and you want to make a blog post, and now you're like, okay, I don't have enough energy anymore. As you get better at doing it, the quality will come. That's why we always keep saying 100 reps, because your first 100 reps are going to suck. And even if you have some really great videos in there, something about the quality is not great. It actually took me hundreds of reps before I started getting this light. Just turn it off right here. You can see a difference here. It's like my face is all shadowed. You can't see much. As soon as you turn on the light, the video looks a lot better. And even though I knew how important lighting was, I didn't get one until a couple hundred reps in. And that makes a difference in the quality of the video. Even just before recording this, I tested and recorded this, didn't like it, deleted it, but I also realized my audio was a little too quiet, and so I turned it up, and I'm also making sure the aim is right at my mouth, so I can actually lower it down a little bit to get a better direct point of line of sight. My point being is that these small little details are stuff that you learn as you create content for a long time. It wasn't until my 6th Polycast interview that I realized, my format for my show needs to be changed pretty dramatically. It's still going to be the same flow, but the actual steps I take need to switch around a little bit. And these are lessons you learn once you put in the reps. So the first thing you need to do is pick your primary format. When I started out, it was blogging, and then I did podcasting, and then I did video. Despite the fact I really wanted to do video, I was really kind of afraid. I did not like being on camera. Now I have hand gestures. I'm looking at the camera. I feel comfortable. I'm not nervous anymore. Even live streaming, I'm not that nervous anymore, even though I still kind of have that anxiety about it. Whether it's video or audio or written content, just commit to your first 100 posts. It's about building momentum and mastery, not perfection. You got to get the skill first. If you switch formats, your learning curve resets, so be prepared for the grind. Again, I want to encourage you to do all three. That's the point of this series. Being a modern content creator entails that you do all three to some capacity. You may not have a blog, but you will have a newsletter. You may not have an interview podcast, but you might have solo casts that you do. Or even you just repurpose your videos into a podcast and call it a day. Even if you're not necessarily making all three, you're making one or two. One of them might only be half effort, like a newsletter versus a blog. I know newsletters are hard, but they're not as deep or in depth as blogs. And so it's one of those things where maybe you don't want to blog. Maybe you just want to do a weekly newsletter so you could build up your email list. Cool. So it's kind of half the effort, but it's still one of those things where it takes a lot of time and focus to do. And my point being is that you might have your main thing, which is the video, but you're still doing all three. The next step is to master repurposing. One piece of content can be transformed into multiple formats. Videos can become blog posts, podcasts, or infographics, and the other way around. I used to have this Miro mind map where I talked about how do you turn each of these pillar types into each other. So you can take a blog post and then use text-to-speech to make it into a podcast, and then turn it into a video using InVideo or Veed or something like that. I need these text to video generator, so to speak. Now there's a lot of ways of doing it now. Even back then though, there was some whiteboard animations you could do. And then the idea of like a podcast, you can do the same thing with the video and then transcribe it into a blog post or newsletter. And the video is probably the easiest. You transcribe it, make that into a blog post, cut the audio out, make it into a podcast. All three types can easily turn into the other ones just by repurposing, let alone actually making all three too. Consistency over perfection. Don't aim for viral content day one. Focus on building a sustainable content routine, and the more you create, the better you'll get, and eventually the audience will come. And the more you create, the more doors will be into your content ecosystem, allowing for another chance of virality. And so this is why I often encourage people not to delete their old content. Even if the content is not related to your new niche, keep it on there. It's your history. People want to see that, and that'll still lead people to your channel. Someone might see your channel for one topic, but stay for another. That's okay. It's okay to switch. People get so worked up over picking your niche, and it's like, you really don't need to. You need to have one thing to start off with and to build up repetition and growth. But once you know what you're doing, you can split off from there. Other than that, I just want to go over the 3 content formats before we wrap up one more time. You have written content, such as blogs or newsletters. You have audio content, such as podcasting, really. There's technically radio and technically music, but really it's podcasting for the most part. And then you have video content, such as YouTube and TikTok and technically live streaming, but live streaming is kind of its own thing. However, being on video is probably the most helpful right now because it's the easiest to repurpose out of all 3. It's a little bit harder to still turn a blog post into a video, despite the fact that the tools make it easier now. And then on top of that too, there's a lot of tools that turn video into short form video really easily. Opus Clip, for example, link down below. I'm not used to calling people down there. But the idea of creating any of these content, you need to put those 100 reps first. And the sooner you do 100 reps with all 3, I think would be a really great way for you to improve. If you wanted to do 33, 33, 33, that's fine. Like you split your attention 3 ways. However, just know it's going to take probably twice as long, maybe not 3 times as long, but twice as long to get done with all of them. And you have to put in twice or 3 times the amount of work in that same time span. If you have the time and energy, do it. Start your newsletter when you start your YouTube channel. Keep it all together and start from the beginning. I think that's a great idea, but only if you have the bandwidth to do it. All right, lesson of the day, 100 reps.